Okay, so for this session, we are going to do a US half double crochet. So that is a UK half treble crochet. So a slightly taller stitch than what we did in the previous session. So we're going to start it in exactly the same way. We're going to put a slip knot on our hook. And we are going to chain 10 chain stitches. So yarn over and pull through, making sure those chain stitches are loose enough that you can see daylight through the other side to make it nice and easy for you to get your hook back into those stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we've got 10 chain stitches here. Now when we did the previous stitch, the US single, which was a UK double, we did 1 turn-in chain. For the half double crochet US, which is a half treble crochet UK, I'm sorry, I have to keep saying them both, but otherwise it's just going to confuse people. So I am making sure I'm covering both terminologies for you. Because it's a slightly bigger stitch than the one we did before, we're going to do 2 turn-in chains. So do 2 extra chains this time. So in total, you should have 12 chains on your piece of work. So we're going to ignore our turn-in chains. So we're going to ignore these first 2 chains nearest to our hook. And we're going to go into the 3rd chain along from our hook. But this time, before we put our hook in, we're going to put our yarn over our hook. So yarn goes over our hook. We're then going to push our hook into that 3rd chain away from our hook. Going to put our yarn over and pull back through 1. So you've got 3 stitches on your hook. And so for the half double US, which is half treble UK, we're going to put our yarn over and pull through all 3 stitches. Again, you'll see you've created that sort of hole where you've been working, and we're going to go in the next chain along. So yarn over first, hook into that chain, yarn over and pull it back through that 1 chain. So you've got 3 on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Yarn over into the next chain along, yarn over, pull it back through that 1 chain, yarn over and pull through all 3. Yarn over, through your chain, yarn over, pull it back through 1 and then yarn over and pull through all 3. So you're just going to continue to do that all the way down these chains, remembering that going into these chain stitches is always the worst bit because you can't really see them as well as you can once you've got proper stitches on your hook. So just keep going. It's all the way to the end. So hopefully at the end of this row we should have 10 stitches on our project. So we had 10 chain stitches and then we did 2 extra chains which were our turn-in chains, and we ignored those at the very beginning, and those 2 extra chains give us the height of our stitch. So there's my last one here. So this is my first row of half double crochets US, half treble crochets UK. You can see that they're slightly taller stitch than what we did before. So if I turn my work, you should be able to see those bees nice and clearly. And if we count those bees, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we've got our 10 V's. So we're at the end of that row. So we're going to do 2 turn-in chains. So 1, 2, turn our work. We're going to ignore those 2 turning chains. And we're going to go into that first proper V, so the third V away from your hook. So remember, yarn over first, pick up that whole V, so make sure you go right through from the front to the back, so you've got both strands of that V on your hook. Yarn over, pull it back through that V, so you've got your 3 strands, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. So yarn over, through the stitch, yarn over, pull it back through that stitch, so you've got your 3 on there, yarn over and pull through all 3. Yarn over, through that next V, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, through all 3. And we're just going to work all the way along to the end of your row. Just be mindful that sometimes your last stitch of your row can be a little bit smaller than the others. It's quite easy to miss that last stitch. So just make sure you're keeping an eye out for that very last V. Okay, so we've got to the end of this row. So now we're going to do 2 turning chains, 1, 2, turn our work, and then we're going to go down the next side again. So ignore those 2 turning chains, going into that very first V, so the one that's sort of on top of the first V that's on top of the vertical line, hook in, pull it back through, and then over all 3, yarn over, hook in, yarn over, pull it back through that V, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. So this is our 3rd row, I think, if I haven't lost count. So the one thing you need to be mindful of with this stitch is that it does leave a line, a horizontal line on your work. So what happens, because you've got 3 stitches here and you're pulling through all 3 of them, it's creating a line here. So can you see there are lines coming across my work? So when you're working backwards and forwards, you need to make sure, I'll try and show you on my next row, it can be sometimes easy to go into the wrong V. So I'm just going to do my 2 turning chains, turn my work. So if you look at the top of my work, the very top, you can see the V's here. If I turn my work slightly, you can also see another row of V's just here. So you've got your proper row of V's here, and then because you've got this line here, it almost creates a fake row of V's. So just make sure you're looking at your work from the very top to make sure you're going into the proper V's, which are at the very top of your work. So we're going to do our last round. So our 2 turning chains, turn our work, ignore those 2 turning chains, and into that first proper V. So we still should have 10 stitches on our work, making sure we pick up every V. The good thing about crochet is if you make a mistake, it's really easy to go back. Because you've only got the 1 loop on your hook, you can just pull it back really easily. So, don't just relax into it. And if you make a mistake, just take your hook out and pull it all the way back. So we're nearly there. A few more stitches to go. Here we go. So if I look at it from the top, you should be able to see these V's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then this is the row of 5 that we did of the single crochet. So you can see the difference in the height between the 2 stitches.